Happy holidays. I'm Susan Kessel, and you're watching Fairfield Public Access Television. Today we have a very special guest, someone that I'm very pleased to have on our show, and that's Lee Gobble. Lee is one of Fairfield's favorite people. For as long as I can remember, you've been around promoting Fairfield in our community and doing all kinds of things that are good. And we could do any number of shows with Lee, historical or community.
Susan, don't try to flatter me. What is it you want for Christmas? Just plain out, tell me.
What I want for Christmas? Mm-hmm. That's right. Lee has on a wonderful Santa shirt that's straight from the attic, right?
From Gobble's store attic.
Gobble's attic.
The customers didn't, we bought a dozen maybe and sold 11, so I took this one home.
I remember those.
Well, I didn't just like to sell socks and underwear. It was one to have some fun, too.
And it was. I remember the store well. So Lee has been a member of our community forever.
5 generations.
5 generations.
Stuck right here in Fairfield, Iowa.
And we'll have to do another show to talk about that.
Okay.
But today we're going to talk about his Christmas postcard collection. And just looking at it for a few minutes here, it's very, you have a lot of them. When did you start collecting?
Well, about 40 years ago, this started to be a hobby, and I've lost interest, and then I pick it up again. And you started out kind of collecting towns, streets, and things, and now I like holidays and occasions and things like Christmas, and of course, don't forget Turkey Gobble Day.
Oh, how could we forget that? You're famous for that. So you started about 40 years ago collecting. Where did you get them?
Well, you can still find them at any flea market or antique store or show. And while grandmother used to collect them, and they got stored in the attic because you didn't get much mail back then. And then along came a generation or two later, and they sent somebody over, clean out grandmother's attic. And out went the trunk and the postcards and everything. But it's amazing how many you can still find. And
I know my grandfather had some, and so I have part of his collection. And part of what was neat about that was I would read the backs of them.
Family cards are the most fun.
Family cards. Now, do you have some that are in the family?
Yes, I do.
And then the others you've purchased here
and there.
Yeah,
and they're just from all over the country, and I got them more for theme than locale.
Do you know what your oldest one would date back to?
Well, this fad was from the turn of the century into the 20s, and then that's when Hallmark and the other card companies started putting them in envelopes. And back then, they were called penny postcards because it took a 1-cent penny stamp. And now, of course, it's 20 cents.
That's increased. I still use postcards. Do you use postcards?
Oh, yes, I do. And people like to get these. Some of them were never used. They were handed, so you can mail them. And you can find some for $1 and less, so that is much less expensive than, and kind of unique than the $2.50 or ones at the card shops.
Yes, and I know our Christmas committee has talked about doing another postcard in the future of the Fairfield Square, but we want to get just the right picture. So we'll have another one for your collection someday.
Well, I think the park looks best this year in a long time, don't you?
Yeah, maybe that's the nice weather. Well, what else about your collection? Do you have a favorite?
Well, tastes change as we get older, and I'm a little more conservative. And this is kind of cute. It's a Dutch scene.
Well, maybe we should stop and let our cameraman get a little closer so we can focus on each one of these and you can tell us about them.
cards began in the 1840s in England and came to this country and were started to be exchanged at about 1880s. And the early cards were printed in England and Germany, but often by our own artists so that they carried a theme that we understood and appealed to us.
Okay, let's take a break and let Richard move a little closer. We're going to start with the Christmas Santa theme. You were saying that Santas wore different outfits.
Yes, down through the years in different countries, they haven't always worn a robe, and they haven't always worn red. You notice that one has a red jacket and
different color pants.
yeah.
So this one is Santa holding a doll in a bag. And we'll slip another one in here. And this one is a robe in blue. And the dates on these are approximately...
Well, we just have to remember from the turn of the century to 1920.
Okay.
They could have been any time in there and might have been printed one time and sold later, you know.
Okay. Let's put another one in here. This one's kind of a pink suit. This is more like what we see today.
Yes, it is. Well, except it's contrast pant.
Right, right. Now this one is embossed a little bit. I can feel on the top.
Everybody tried to outdo the other in putting out the cutest or most unusual card.
Now we talked about the artistry in these and how nice some of these, the artists, I suppose they were very popular artists.
Yes, they were, and some of them were dress designers like Kate Greenaway of children's dresses, and they had contests and prizes. And,
No, I didn't know that.
and that's Santa in his workshop getting a sled ready.
Now this next one, I found really interesting because you said this was before airplanes.
It would have been before, so people have been thinking about flying for a long time, haven't they? And, and that has a patriotic touch with the flag in it.
That's nice, looking down
A
on
lot
the
of
world.
that artist had a lot of imagination.
And do we have any other Santas?
I think that's it.
Okay. Let's take a look at this one. And this one coming up is a kind of a nativity scene. And it is also blank in the back, so it didn't get used. It's not signed or written on. And you said this would be found in a drugstore?
There weren't any card shops or like we see them today, but you know how Martin's drugstore has a big display of cards.
Right.
And they would have been on a metal rack, and you flipped it around and didn't have the big department that they have today.
And here is another one. And this one has more writing on it. Did a lot of them have writing, or did they keep them just picturesque?
Well, I think each person decided how much it was needed to describe the scene. That's the three wise men, right?
Right, the star. And now I'm going to show one that you said is Dutch.
Yeah, it's not from Holland or anything, but it's the language and all intrigued people, and the wooden shoes and so on. So lots of artists used those.
And do you have any others that are that theme?
Yes.
Oh, there's one.
And
So I would have guessed that these were from Holland.
And it looks like flirting went on back then too. This fellow, what does he say?
Look for some mistletoe, and then you'll know. I can't read upside down.
What is?
What is?
What is going to happen? Or
Oh, okay.
Maybe.
So a lot of cards have a sense of humor.
Yes, they do. Like that one.
Like this one. I'm the candy kid.
Got to have some candy into the Christmas theme. And this is what they called an attachment.
This one.
It has a calendar stapled, and the date is 1917.
1917, wow.
And I don't know, the mailman must have been more careful in those days for that to have gone through the mail, or maybe that was handed from one
to the other. I'm going to take a peek at the back.
Well, that's
Calendar postcards.
it's the company selling it to the telling that they cost $1.50 a hundred, and they could print any company name or individual on them.
Those are really nice. And these are in pretty good condition, aren't they? As
Well,
far as collecting?
I chose the better ones. If like any collecting, the better the condition,
The more valuable.
the more valuable they are. And I learned a word in postcards that are become kind of musty and everything, and bent corners and so on, called smirched.
Smirched. Is
How do
that, is that your word?
No,
No?
I discovered that along the way somewhere.
So I like this dog here with the mistletoe in its mouth.
And what's he saying?
Come on, boys, for a happy Christmas. Now, this is a fun one. And as Lee pointed out, you can see the boys' really big eyes.
He's just rushed down the stairs from his bedroom and popped in and found that Santa's been there, and his eyes are just jumping out.
Yeah, that's nice. We're losing the sound on our microphone a tiny bit, so we're going to adjust there. See if we can pick it up better. Okay.
After Santa, why, children were the next biggest theme of cards.
Oh, those are cute. Under the mistletoe again, and boy and girl.
Are you kind of familiar with the camel soup kids? Or
Yes,
so
those
on and
do.
on?
Those-
So I think each artist tried to come up with something a little bit different. And
Now, is this the same time as the Cupid doll?
yes, would
Because it looks a little bit like that,
be. It
too.
would be.
And then another one with children as a theme.
And he's got a great big stocking, hasn't he? That's.
Uh-huh.
And what does the verse say?
I hope that you get all you want for Christmas.
Well, that was nice, unselfish, wasn't it? Of that boy.
Right. And then we'll have a little boy coming up. When Christmas comes, why, I'm so glad. It seems like I can't be bad. I think if it would come to stay, that I'd be good most every day. Sure, we all make promises around Christmas time. Little kids get blackmailed or threatened with being good.
Here's a Christmas seal that
We'll
was
show the
sent,
back of this one.
sent in 1921. And now the postage has evidently gone up to 2 cents.
2 cents. Boy, I'm trying to remember when I first remember sending mail. I think a nickel or 4 cents, maybe in the late 50s is what I would remember. And then here,
A home scene around the fireplace, is it?
very cozy looking postcard. Well, maybe this will encourage people to send some postcards out. It seems like cards have gotten so expensive that mailing Christmas cards is a great
Well,
expense.
so you better run over to grandmother's and up to her attic and look in the trunk and see if there's some there, or go to the next flea market and
reuse,
watch for
recycle.
cards. Yes.
Now, you're famous for sending out your Christmas letter. And I have to say that my grandfather did a Christmas letter every single year, and I still have them. I should get them out and read them again. They were really
Well,
special.
You know, there's lots of jokes, and even Ann Landers is running down the Christmas letter.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm sort of handicapped because I don't have a lot of relatives or any
write about.
or grandchildren's pictures, so my cards will just really be lacking something.
Oh, I
Highlighter.
don't think so. You usually tell a little something about Fairfield and what's going on in town now. and-
Well, most of these cards go to former Fairfielders or former Parsonites, and I want to update them on what's going on in our
How
fine
many do
town.
you send out a year?
Well, I forget, but the post office has to put on extra helps.
To handle your letter. Okay, we'll move back down to the cards again. And this next one coming up has embroidery on it. So this is a really special one. It actually has,
That one probably
Material.
that one probably would have cost a quarter, don't you imagine? Rather than
yeah, this is one of those expensive ones. It looks like it has a little cutout place with the embroidery probably slipped in there.
Yes, that's great taste. I would have passed that one up years ago, but now that's one of my favorites.
Unusual. Now we're going to look at the back of another one. And this one you were tell me more about this one in the back.
Well, when they had this divider, started in 1906, a place for the address and a place for the greeting.
Uh-huh.
But that one would be prior to 1906, and that
This
stamp is also older.
Okay.
But none of these stamps are old enough to be valuable. There were so many used, and they were all got to be common. So,
Okay, and then this one has the divider, which they
Yes.
started doing later.
and this is one of those cards that may have come out of a store that surplus or sample or something was never sent.
Okay, let's flip them over and see. Oh, this one's very pretty. I like that gold. Very simple, but it's very effective. And then along with it, we have this one, which just is totally verse.
Borders and touches of color,
The
corner treatment.
and the calligraphy writing. You know, something that I noticed when I would read my grandparents' cards is their handwriting was so much prettier and stylized than today. I think they must have spent a lot more time in school learning to write.
Well, did you ever hear of the Palmer method?
Yes, yes. I think the writing these days is a lot more simplified.
Well, they, with all the different gadgets, why
Right.
people don't
I
write
guess
as
we're
much
lucky we know how to write.
as yes.
Okay, and sorry, camera person, we're going to move back down to the postcards. So we'll try another one here. This one is a little girl. I hope Santa Claus knows where you live.
And standing in front of a background of a tree and lots of color and
And the candles on the tree.
nice border. Yeah, the candles like they used to have a long time ago.
Wishing you a Merry Christmas.
Some girls that have hiding out and watching for Santa. They caught him
Want to make sure he's going to come down
Yeah.
the
chimney.
chimney like they say. And after that, this is another one of, it looks like children looking for Santa. And I think through the art and the postcards, you see the evolution of the Christmas tree and different ways of decorating also with the candles that we mentioned.
This card, Susan, was mailed in Lockridge and went to Pleasant Plain, so it never got very far from home. And just take a look at the look on that dog's face. I think he's needing a new home, don't you? It looks
Yeah.
rather lonesome.
Greetings to you. Well, thank you, Lee, for sharing your postcard collection with us.
Well, I want to tell you both how much I enjoy this TV station. It's a great asset to Fairfield, and I watch it some part of every day. It keeps us up on what's going on, ball games and council meetings and things that we ought to be attending but don't always get to. So thanks so much and it's live and we see it, friends there.
Right. Well, we try and do that for our community, as I know that you have done for our community your whole life. And it's been a pleasure to have you here and to...
Oh, this is the first time I've ever been a TV star, and I just feel wonderful about it.
Well, it won't be the last.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Lee Gobble.